Greetings and welcome to Jeremiah School Vlogication. This video does not provide medical advice, nor is it intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician and/or qualified healthcare provider.
We started, I'm going to give you a little bit of history, and I tell you about me, and these are my kids, so everybody go, "Aww, aren't they cute?" Okay.
Yeah.
A little bit of information just about me, that we have 5 kids, 3 of them are adopted from CPS, and I'm a teacher by trade for 30 years, but primarily, the reason that I can talk to you today is because of one of our kids that's also a client here, and kind of what we went through trying to help him. We knew from birth that there were some differences. We knew at 14 months there were some maybe huger differences, but we prayed, like, you know how your kids reach about age 4 and the angels come and sing over them? Mm-hmm. And you're like, whew, life's getting better now. Well, he got to be a little past 4 and the angels never showed up. And so I remember distinctly when Chris said, the angels didn't come, and I'm like, we need to figure something else out. And so that's the point when we started researching. We had started some things on diet because we would notice that when he ate certain things, he was a crazy man. And so we had kind of started adjusting that, and this one has done thousands, literally thousands and thousands of hours of research. Not to say that everyone needs to do thousands of hours, and that's kind of our, we've made this a ministry because we would love it if other people didn't have to do thousands of hours, and if they could come and say, hey, what is this? And we could help point in the right direction, because it's vast. And in this area, really hard to get help on a lot of this stuff, or to find resources. Or it's getting better, but it's a struggle. Anyway, so I want to start with a little background knowledge, and you may know some of this, you may not, but I wanted to start from the beginning about what happens basically when you eat. So you eat, focusing on proteins. Your proteins are broken down into amino acids, and then your amino acids specifically form certain neurotransmitters. So your serotonin, your dopamine, your epinephrine, your norepinephrine, the things that you've heard about, adrenaline, and epinephrine are the same thing. So those amino acids, without those, you will not have the right amounts of those neurotransmitters. The essential amino acids, if you look, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. The tryptophan, tyrosine, and phenylalanine, those are the 3 that make the what I would call they're the most important to us, because they're the ones we struggle with. Serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. And those are the ones that determine your mood and anxiety, aggression, those sorts of things. And we'll talk more about that in just a minute. So there are essential amino acids and there are non-essential. Essential amino acids have to come from your diet. So if you have a crummy diet, or if your system is broken and it can't pull those out efficiently, you're going to have an imbalance of your chemistry in your brain. It's going to be off. So it can either be too low because you can't make them correctly, or you don't have enough things in your diet to pull it, or it can be too high because your body doesn't work well to clear those when you're done with them. And you want a balance, and you want it in the middle. You don't want too much or too little. So there are the non-essential amino acids that you still need for functions in the body, and I won't talk as much about those today, but those are made by the body. But some of the essential amino acids that are pulled out, and some of the vitamins and other things, then are put together to create those other non-essential amino acids. So it all kind of hinges on diet and how then your system works. And that was one of the things we noticed, was that even though we were working on the diet and changing, and we were seeing some changes, it wasn't all getting better. And so I remember another night, we had many nights with conversations, I know you all know, just going,
I don't know.
And then he goes, I don't know either. And back and forth. But we figured out somewhere in there, he said it's got to be something with his genetics. So, there's that. So this is just a very, very, very short list that kind of gives you an example of what your serotonin does. And it's not just your oh, I feel pretty good, I'm okay hormone. It has to do with anxiety. It has to do with food cravings and sleeping and all of those things. And that specifically, if you don't have enough tryptophan or you can't use the tryptophan, your serotonin's going to be off. And the same thing with the dopamine. It's with your focus, your attention, your memory, so all of your learning has to do with your dopamine. If you've got some addictive stuff, motivation, all of that is related to the dopamine. Norepinephrine. So people that are abusing drugs and alcohol are self-medicating.
Yeah.
Because it's not, there's certain foods, carbohydrates, things like that, self-medicating. It's trying to raise the dopamine. Sugar, trying to raise the dopamine. So norepinephrine also has to do with anxiety. And then when you go, norepinephrine and epinephrine are kind of downstream from each other. So if one's jacked up, the other one's jacked up. So if you've got anxiety all the time, and then you add a little bit more to it, then you've got a kid that's aggressive, and with boys, probably violent, or tendencies towards that. So, we can all get there. We can all say, have a really bad day, the situations are right, a bad week, I haven't been sleeping, I don't feel good, I'm going to blow up at someone, right? I've been pushed over the edge. But with kids, if they're already at this level all the time, you don't have to do anything more than say, hey, can you pick up your socks? And they're flipping out. And you think, well, all I did was ask her to pick up her socks. Or all I did was ask him to let the dog out. And they're like, shut up! Well, because they were already here, so they're entering that fight or flight phase all the time. Because this system, something about it is not working right. So the other thing that, not to specifically memorize this, but just to know that they have to be in balance. So your noradrenaline and your serotonin together in balance help with impulse and anxiety control. So if you are not motivated enough, you don't feel like doing anything, we're low. If you have anxiety and you're aggressive, impulsive, I think I'll jump off the roof while holding something that's lit on fire. Probably not a good idea, but that's probably too much. So there's something wrong with the balance there. So it's not as simple as saying, oh, it's one neurotransmitter, or it's just one and the other. They have to be in balance as well. So we found with Anthony that going and I'm not telling you to take your kids off meds, don't hear that, but we tried so many, and it would look okay for a while, and then on certain days, and then other things were worse because it would only be addressing part of the problem, and it couldn't address the whole thing. So basically your neurotransmitters have everything to do with what you think and how you feel and how you act. Everything.
Can I add something in there?
No. Yes, go ahead.
Also, all these things you hear about, that's how we kind of got into this. We talk about the norepinephrine, the dopamine, all these things. If you go look at drug medications, this is what they're addressing with medications.
Right.
And that's kind of when the light went off. We're like, wait a minute.
The system is broken.
Why are we taking medications when we can handle this with supplements and food, if possible? I mean, it's a trick. It's
well, if the medication had worked, we wouldn't be here right now because
Right.
we would have said, that's fantastic, let's take us some of that. But it didn't. It didn't work for him.
It didn't work.
Because, his system, look at this part here, his system didn't make enough of some things, So there's it's called methylation. There's one side, here we're making some stuff, here we're clearing some stuff out. Well, both of his sides are broken. So over here, he's not making enough. And by golly, if he works so hard, that you get kind of level, then over here, it's not clearing. So if he gets upset, because I've asked him to pick up his socks, and he says, shut up, and then I'm like, you're not going to talk to me like that, or whatever, on a given day. I try to let that stuff go, but let's be real. And so this pushes him a little more. He doesn't calm in 30 minutes or an hour. 3 days. 3 days. It takes his system to recover, and it's not from the interaction between he and I. It's 3 days of recovering from whatever went wrong in the cycle.
They shut down.
Yes.
There's something called COMT, and I have it too. When the COMT makes you get angry, and it's catecholamines, and they build in your system, and it just keeps you mad.
Yeah,
and I can go for 3 days. We'll get in an argument about something, and she can let it go in 10 seconds, and I'm still over there going. But it's the COMT. I've got the same genetic.
Yeah, he
some
can't
of the same
clear it, and so
similar
he walks
genetic.
around kind of sulking,
I get mad for 3 days, and after 3 days, it kind of goes away.
which makes me have
The
anxiety.
methylation's what clears the catecholamines out, and all these different things that I know y'all aren't gonna remember all this, but it's once you start looking into it, it's very interesting how it all.
Yeah, it really is fascinating. It really is. So some of your neurotransmitters are inhibitory, meaning they keep you from things. They pull things down. So if you're looking at the serotonin, that, you want to be able to go to sleep. So you don't want to be too excited, or you're not going to sleep. Your anxiety's up, you're not going to sleep. So that's your dopamine and your serotonin being out of balance. Dopamine's too high, serotonin goes too low. And any of if you look at dopamine, it's inhibitory and excitatory because it helps with focus and attention and learning, but it also is the one that makes you feel like you're okay. Well, then you get excited. Then you have anxiety. Then you have aggression. Then if it's high enough, you have schizophrenia. So that's kind of how those work. And I'm not going to read this to you, and especially since you've got it in your handout that you can look at, but that's kind of some basic information about how the excitatory or the inhibitory works. Tell you kind of the norepinephrine-epinephrine ratio, that if it's less than 3, you've got restless. If it's greater than 6, you've got stress, but you're tired, but you can't sleep, that thing. And you've got, you just keep running like the Energizer Bunny, but you're burnout, you're stressed. I cry. I mean, when I don't know if you've ever gone 3 or 4 days without sleeping much. Yeah, that thing. The histamine, that's the one, antihistamine. They want to lower those to cut back on your allergic reactions. If your histamine goes too high, you have allergies, asthma, hives, swelling, all that stuff. So that's also an amino or a neurotransmitter, and it tells the brain, hey, we're being attacked. This is what we need to do.
Is there a common, is it common for like with y'all's children to have high allergies? Because I know my daughter's got them really sensitive. I mean, she's allergic to everything.
There's another piece to this that I didn't bring in. That's the, some kids run high histamines.
High histamine, right.
And some kids run low histamines. Well, Anthony runs high, so there are a few things that he's like deathly allergic to. Like this. If he stands next to a horse and the wind blows, you better have some Benadryl or you're going to the ER. I mean, he doesn't even have to touch the horse. He just has to stand next to it. Mm-hmm. It's really bad. He has a lot of reactions to foods, not anaphylaxis, but reactions to foods and things like that. Interestingly, the twins and Anthony have the same biomom. So when we went on this diet for Anthony, we had the twins we got them at 2.5. 6 months maybe, I don't remember. Their asthma started going away. You can have genetic mutations. They're just sitting there. So think of it like heart disease. You can have the genetic predisposition for that, but maybe it kicks on in your 30s or your 50s or your 70s. Well, why? If you have the same genetic piece, why doesn't it kick on at age 2? It does for some people, but something flips the switch on, and that's epigenetics. So something in that event.
I don't want it to flip back off or
right, flip the switch, right,
ever again.
Yeah.
So that's
Well, the same thing with Anthony. When we started doing all this, he never got sick. He didn't have allergy.
Which by the
nothing.
way is not a good thing.
Yes.
Never, ever, ever getting sick is not good because it means that your immune system is in overdrive all the time.
See, that was
you want to
my
get
friend.
sick,
You
but
never
not
got
too
sick.
sick.
That's
Not
not
sick
his.
all the time. Not he catches everything that comes by sick, but you get sick and you get well.
Right.
And you build up immunity, and so, I got the flu. I get the flu maybe once every 10 years. So, and we don't vaccinate, so it's not. Don't get a flu shot, just please, dear God. Anyway, there's mercury in this and some other stuff. But anyway, and so you get sick, and then your body builds an immunity, and that works for a really long time. And I guess mine wears off in 10 years, and I go, oh, I need to take something else, or get it again and build that up. But what happens if your kids are never sick, and it seems like a really great thing until they're about in their 30s or their 40s, and their immune system starts wearing out, and then you start having things like cancer and some other more serious, because the immune system just can't fight the stuff off. So
we're gonna have to do something.
So it's something to look at. I'm not like a specialist on. I'm just saying that this is from our research.
Sense. Yeah.
It's right, and we do know people that have. I actually know one man that has almost the exact genetic makeup of Anthony, and he's 30s. I think he's less than 40 when he had kidney cancer. He's got a host of issues now, and that's what he says. He was never sick as a kid. He was never, ever, ever sick, and now.
It's kind of the autoimmune thing you hear about it.
Right.
That's the system in overdrive. It starts eating
attacking itself, right. So this is I never get sick. This is the body attacking itself, and neither one are good. But anyway, this is just another list that I thought was a little simpler. I wanted to include several charts because we all think differently, and this one just kind of explains again what the different neurotransmitters do. And then what happens if there's a shortage or an excess? And we talked about it's not good if it's too high or too low. And these are some of them that work together. The dopamine and the histamine work together. They help your memory, they help you be clear, they help you feel motivated. Well, if you don't have enough, you're going to be compulsive. You're going to be, or you're going to not want to do anything at all. And you're not going to pass that, you just don't care. So you're going into depression. So that's the dark print here is what they do, and when they're in balance, how that works. So transition means moving from one activity to another. Can you say, okay, I need to clean the table, but I also kind of need to sweep the floor? Or do you sit and look at the table, there's spots on it and you can't stop and you're getting anxiety because you can't get it? Well, now you've crossed over into obsession. So there's an imbalance there. I know about this because I have I'll tell you about that in a minute, but when we did Anthony's genetics, we also tested all of ours, and I just have this one little nasty one. But there's that. And so then the serotonin and the glutamate affect your perception, how you see things. You will swear. I know there are times that you've been in a situation and you'll swear that you're right about what's going on, but later something changes and you look back and you think, I was totally irrational. I don't know what the heck that was. Well, that's what it is. At that time, whatever's going on in your body with your neurochemistry is telling you that you're right, and you will fight to the death for that, and then 2 days later go, 10 years or 15 years.
Or never.
Or never.
Good for you. Good for you.
But you don't own it. You go, no, I'm not telling you.
Yeah.
No one has
Lay
to
awake
know.
at night going, what is wrong with me? Why can I not let that go? So that's another little example of how they work together and need to be in balance to make everything seem okay. Now, how do genetic mutations affect the formation of the neurotransmitters? Here we're going to get into some of this. There's a ton of these. I included some of the ones that they have more research on. They're also the ones that, not all the ones that, Anthony has 11 genetic mutations.
Out of 23 on that list they checked.
Yeah. Of the ones they check about how the methylation cycle works. Now that's not like, we don't know about the rest, but how that system works, 11 of those are broken. 3 of them are from both bio parents, and they are all about how this system works that breaks down the amino acids, forms the neurotransmitters, and then clears them out to calm and keeps everything in balance. So it's a very broken system. The ones I included, and some of them, there's a lot of research on, and some of them there's not so much when we look at the list. So I included some of the ones that I think there's more research on, but definitely the ones that we've researched more. So we know that's not to say that there's not a whole ton more. The MTHFR, which is called the mother effer, for if you study about it or your kid has it, you'll be like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's why they call it that. Okay.
2 of
And
those, and the other one hasn't been tested yet.
It stands for something like what? Methyl tetrahydrate. Go ahead.
You can put me on the spot.
Reductase.
Yes,
Yeah, it's some of that. It's like this big.
that's why we call it.
A lot of these, yeah.
The word's like this long.
So it has to do with your cellular repair, your detox, your neurotransmitter production, and your healthy immune function. Ha! Yeah. It's also related to autism. COMT and CBS also related to autism. So if you look at your kids' genetics and they've got the MTHF, the COMT, and the CBS, I'm telling you, it's autism. Because I can make that diagnosis.
If that switch has been flipped on.
So
If the switch has been flipped on,
Right.
true, but we're all sitting in here.
Right, yeah. Right.
I'm just saying,
Because the
something
switch
just
has been
flipped
flipped.
on.
Yeah.
And so
Something's flipped.
now the age-old question is, can you actually genetically test for autism? So yes, in a way you can start down that diagnosis.
Dr.
with this
Nabolsi
information.
told me. Dr. Nabolsi
Wow.
told me. These are related to, these are genetically related to autism.
These 3?
So he said he said specifically MTHFR, but the MTHFR and the COMT, but the more research we've done, CBS is in there also.
Okay.
So he knows that. Now, does that mean that every doctor you're going to go to is going to know this? No.
Probably not.
Well, it's getting more popular. This and what?
Yeah.
What?
It is.
Just. I mean,
Praise Jesus.
This is what they call functional medicine. This
Right.
is where, if we can get there, this is where the world is heading. If they don't get cut off by, we can't make as much money doing this. At any rate, I studied this for 7 years, 7 years. And I would go to the doctors and go, well, what about supplements? Oh, no, none of that works. None of that works.
Your diet won't make any difference.
When we got the genetic testing done and found out he had all these mutations, and I went back, not to pick on Nabolsi, but I went back to Nabolsi, who's one of the ones I said, what about this? No. Went back to him with that sheet of the mutations and he goes, oh yeah, I know all about that.
Boy.
Yeah.
See, he doesn't, him and Dr. Kendall Stewart aren't
You
on the
want to
same
pause
page.
that?
Yeah, I'll cut that part out.
I was going to say, edit.
But
It's
we love them
fine.
both.
I mean, no, but I really,
Right.
he's actually, in his defense, He's gotten way better. And
Yes.
I mean, over the years they've
He will
caught
learn
on.
and grow.
He has.
That's good.
They've caught on.
He's
and
one
it's-
of the
He
few.
has.
It's right.
I'm not picking on them. It's
No,
just
no, we know.
they're in that world.
In
of,
Midland,
this
who
is
else?
what they know.
Western
Well,
medicine.
I'll give you some names in a minute. That's yeah.
Cool.
I'll give you some names in a minute.
Here, I'm gonna go.
But the COMT has to do more with the clearing things out, and you know, can you calm yourself in an adequate amount of time for the situation? You know, somebody cuts you off in traffic, what, 15, 20 minutes. But you know, people that get cut off in traffic and they're still mad, you know, the next morning about it, something's up, because you need to let that go, you know.
So is that something where opposition might fall with that tendency to vengeance
Yes.
a few days
Yeah,
later?
that's-
Yes.
The COMT?
Because think of it this way. Think of a situation when you've been really upset, and rightfully so, right? And stuff keeps coming up. So maybe you're upset, your anxiety's up, so you don't sleep that night. And you start not feeling good, and it keeps going from there. Somebody comes in and starts asking you to do a bunch of stuff, you're going to snap at them. Like my favorite thing to say is one thing. I try to say it like this, one thing at a time, but I know it's like one thing at a time, you know.
Right.
So there's that, and it could even go beyond that. It depends what's going on. And to me, you know, I'm thinking in my head, you people are badgering me, and you need to just back off because I work hard over here, and you need to sit down and bring me some flowers and tell me how great I am. That's not happening.
When all they've asked is, what time do you think
Right.
dinner will be ready?
Well, there's the
I
perception.
jumped on that.
That's the
before.
perception.
When dinner
Yeah.
is ready,
When
I
it's
will let
ready.
you will be the first to know. I worked all day and went to the store. I started at 5 a.m. in the morning, and that one puked over there.
And that's not enough for you?
Right, exactly. Get a little appreciation around here, and the kids are like, okay, man. So,
Cereal it is.
but so from our, you know, when you're in those situations, those times, you know, you feel like you're perfectly justified, but when you look back, yeah. Well, if you're a kid, it's oppositional, right?
Right.
Because all I did was ask you to pick up your socks and pick up your flipping socks, and I worked so hard. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes from there. Now the VDR, well, CBS. Let me talk about that one. Things you eat, and as things digest, they turn to ammonia or put ammonia off or sulfites as a byproduct. Clearly, you don't want that floating around getting to your brain. You want that out. But if that system is broken and that's not getting out, now you've got toxic stuff going on. And depending how high it goes, you know, that's can make you really, really sick. The VDR is your vitamin D receptor, and that has also to do with mood and depression. It doesn't say that on there, but it does. And affects the blood sugar, how you are able to pull from reserves when you haven't had food for a while to stabilize your blood sugar. Does that work?
Aha.
Is it broken? Is it not broken?
This is the hangry one?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's probably not by itself, but yeah. Here's the thing I have. I have the MAOA. And that's being able to break down and get rid of extra serotonin. It's a X-linked trait, so it's in females. So that's neato.
On the VDR, the vitamin D,
Uh-huh.
one of my husband's doctors had recommended my son take more vitamin D.
Mhm.
And for my husband too. Is that something you've had experience with
Yeah,
Anthony?
vitamin D3.
D3. That
And
was my
I'll
next,
talk
'cause there's
about the forms of vitamins in a
Perfect,
minute
perfect.
because they're not all equal.
okay.
They don't all, yeah. Yeah. So I have a little trouble with anxiety and worrying about things and
Imagine that, right?
and get right.
No way.
And seriously, when I wasn't married and had no children and lived by myself, I still had that. So it's I got to look back and go, okay, yeah, it's always been there.
I have this,
Mhm.
and I have my grandson has it.
Mhm.
So, how do you shut that off and look at it, but not want to look at it and improve our lives. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
Because I carry a lot of guilt.
That's why. That's all we're gonna say about that. Yeah, we're gonna get to some of that. I like counseling. That's a good thing. I do like some counseling, and I read some books. But I will say there's still nights when, if I can get up and just go to the bathroom and go back to bed and not allow one single thought to start, but once I have one thought, it's like flips it on, the anxiety starts, and I struggle with that. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. I do know that if I get caffeine or sugar or chocolate, I'm in trouble. It jacks me up.
Is it for the whole day for you? Because I can do it before 2 p.m.
But don't
No,
you like
it's the
being
whole. I
jacked
just
up?
can't do it at all.
Do you?
If
I
I
think I do.
if I
Like being jacked up.
if I drink coffee in the morning, I'm going to be anxious the whole day. I have to do decaf. I'll be anxious the whole day. And then the more time that goes by, because then that throws my blood sugar off. And then the more time that goes by, then by the afternoon, I'm a little snippy. By 4 o'clock when I get home or everybody's walking in, and then you've got all this sensory overload, all this noise and people asking for stuff and all that. It's not pretty. It's not a good combination.
Well, let's talk caffeine for a
And-
second.
And exercise is good.
So it's not so much
No, I have an
situational.
elliptical, and if I can just do 7 minutes, I swear to you, or an hour walk, but 7 minutes or an hour. 7 minutes, ma'am. I'm a much nicer person. But go ahead, caffeine.
Caffeine, everybody thinks gives you energy.
No.
All it does is
No.
it blocks another neurotransmitter called adenosine. And
That's me self-medicating type of thing.
it is.
isn't
What
Right.
it does is
Another
shut
form.
off. It inhibits adenosine, which makes you feel calm. Part of one of these makes you feel calm. So when you drink a bunch of caffeine, coffee, it turns that off, and all of a sudden you get jittery and shaky.
You can't
And we
calm.
equate that to energy. It's not really
It's not
energy.
the same.
Because it blocks it.
It's
not all
just
the
all
stuff
it's
going
doing
on
is
around it.
blocking a neurotransmitter from
Well,
firing that's supposed to
You know
calm
what?
you down.
I'm not discounting. I mean, I think that we live incredibly stressful lives. Not just we, but we live incredibly stressful lives. And that, when you respond to something in your environment and your adrenaline goes up, that affects your neurochemistry also. But how well can you clear it and adjust and balance, then that has to do with diet and genetics.
Yeah, that was my question too, because like sometimes situationally, like now that the kids are about to start school, like now it's like, oh my gosh, like I've got them like starting football and school at the same exact time, and it's like a million things going through my mind at night, and I'm like, normally when I'm in a high end sense, like I've got to get their immunizations, that's when I can't sleep at night, because then I lay down and I tell my husband, don't wake me when you come to bed, because the minute you wake me, I'm not going back to sleep. But it's not always that way. It seems more situational, like whatever is going on in my life at that moment, if I've got a lot. But if I don't got a lot going on, I could wake up and flip around and go back to sleep.
Right. So it does. It has to do with how you respond to that stuff. But if depending on the situation, if you calm yourself, you get calm and everything's fine. But if you carry that for days or weeks or whatever, and it interferes with your sleep, then there's an imbalance of some kind for some reason.
Right.
Yeah. So, anyway, let's see. So, how can I address these problems? Change your diet. It's a very number one thing that you can do without seeing a doctor. It's not going to hurt you. It might help. And usually when you talk about people changing their food, you think that you're hitting a baby with another baby. They get just irate, Oh, I can't give up my Oreos. Okay. Don't then. I'm not eating them. So, how do you address these problems? First thing, diet. Diet is huge. It's very personal. Makes people very angry. I'm just putting out the information. The genetic test, the 23andMe, and I'll tell you how to do that in a minute, If you go to your doctor and you ask for genetic testing, sometimes they don't want to do it. A lot of times the genetic testing you get is not the methylation panel. That's the piece that we want to know about the mental health. And then it's like thousands of dollars, and insurance usually won't pay for it. So, and then figuring out what amino acids and what supplements in what forms are necessary. And then some of it's trial and error and some of it's research. Just, we'll talk more about that piece in a minute. So the first thing we did was get rid of food dyes and preservatives. And I have included a list of the most common food additives, preservatives, chemicals, stuff like that, way at the back, I think. There's if you go to the FDA site, there's millions of pages of things. They're not all bad. Not everything they put in there is bad, but the ones that I've included are fairly harmful. Some of them you will have heard of, some of them not. An example of this is MSG.
Real quick, talking about FDA. If they've approved it, it's not food. It wasn't food to start with. So
Right, because they
everybody
don't
goes,
approve
it's FDA approved."
strawberries. They don't approve
Wow.
that. They have to
They don't
approve things
approve
that are
food.
not. That's a good point.
Wow.
Right.
There's
You go
no
to the
reason to
store,
call
you
it.
buy strawberries, lettuce, meat, all that. They don't approve that. It's not. They approve chemicals, is what they approve. And most of the chemicals you see at the FDA are byproducts of another industry that they were throwing in the trash. And they went, wait, let's pour that in the Twinkie and now give it, and now we don't have to pay to throw the stuff
For
in
instance,
the trash.
food dyes. That's where most of food dyes are a petroleum byproduct waste. Now, I want to know who the drunk SOB was that was walking along and said, look at that yellow stuff dripping out of there. Tasted it and said, I'm going to put this in my cake batter. I don't know. I'm just saying. I don't know how that started. But there's some kind of gap in there from trash to your food. I don't know.
So that's part of why the FDA takes forever to. Supplements never get FDA.
No,
not.
they don't, because
Right.
supplements are natural. They come from.
They've
something happened-
tried for over 20 years to take that over, but the struggle is that, if you've got a supplement and it is actually plant-based, it is actually a food item, it doesn't fall legally under their thing.
They
They'd
do.
like to take it over because they're,
They approve things that might be harmful. In the 90s, early 90s, it changed because they were a nonprofit government organization.
yeah, now
And
they
in the
are a
90s,
for-profit.
They were for-profit.
They
and
are
if-
for-profit, them and the CDC. They are for-profit
FDA.
agencies.
FDA.
FDA and the CDC are for-profit private companies.
That's
Which
scary.
means if you want to pour some chemicals in a food, you go up to them and go, I'm going to
you
give
have
you
enough
$10
money-
million to approve
Yes.
this. And they go, sure.
Do they
That
have
sounds like
Monsanto
a
in their
What
back
could go
pocket?
wrong?
Oh,
What could possibly
And
go
you
wrong?
watch, whoever's the head of Monsanto will be on the president's council or something. They'll work for a pharmaceutical and then they'll go to the FDA. You watch the
There was a
trail that
commercial
they
the other
follow.
day,
Big
and it was this
circle.
whole commercial, and this little bitty part said, "Sponsored by Monsanto," and I went,
Yeah.
"Beware."
And so, anyway, that's a
So
whole
if I
other.
like it, don't eat it.
Pretty
Pretty
much.
You know what? I will tell you this. When you change, because we had to give up dairy, and I was mad about my cheese. Because I was like, I cannot cook without cheese. We cannot eat. I'm going to starve to death without some cheese. But I started experiment because I did have to look at my sweet child and know that it was bad. It was bad. He was angry. He was violent. He had a rash. I mean, I couldn't in good conscience go, I'm going to have my cheese, So we've found some substitutes and things, but by and large I found that that when if I make lasagna and I don't put cheese in there, nobody kind of notices. You don't really...
It's kind of mental.
I make enchiladas, I don't put cheese in them. Nobody notices. You really don't, but the foods that we do eat, like I will crave a salad or certain vegetables and want things that your body will crave those. It will help you fix it.
Yeah, once you get off the
Because-
junk food for a little while, you
You
really
won't want it
notice.
anymore.
But if you
Like-
Yeah, that was my question. Was like, will you start craving it once you start getting away from the unhealthy stuff?
Right.
Well, and then
And
when
you
you go
won't crave
back,
the unhealthy stuff.
when you go back and eat something unhealthy, even though you don't like,
Oh, it'll make you sick.
Sick.
I don't want
Oh,
to call
yeah.
anybody out, but
Yeah.
there's a certain smoothie place here in town that everything's healthy. You go get one, and I did. I hadn't had one in years. And I thought, okay, I'll get one. As soon as I tasted it, it was like, what was that? It tastes like a sweet tart. You go look up the ingredients,
And that's
it's
what it
full
is.
of chemicals.
Yeah.
They put a couple of healthy splashes of something, but everything else is chemicals.
I did that. My friends
You
asked,
taste it.
how do you go drinking unsweet tea? But I did a diet several years ago for 6 weeks, and all I could have was unsweet tea. And I started drinking it like that. And when I tried to drink sweet tea after that, I was like, I'm drinking pure sugar.
Yeah.
Right.
You notice it more.
I was like,
get
I
immune to it.
miss the flavor of just the tea without the
Right,
sugar.
exactly.
Yeah.
Your brain will adjust because it really wants to be level. I mean, that's why people crave carbohydrates and alcohol and all. There's an imbalance. Everybody just wants to feel okay.
Right.
So I know, people that want to eat fast food all the time, they crave that. There's chemicals in that will affect your neurochemistry and light up your opiate receptors, so that your dopamine, raise your dopamine. Well, then it plummets.
They call it
'Cause
neurotoxins.
Yeah, they're neurotoxins. Then it plummets. Then what do you want? More. Because it's a quick fix. But it doesn't keep it level.
Right.
And so that's
But
the
see,
problem.
I'm lazy. Sometimes I know when I'm fixing to spin out, then I do the go food because I know if I have to go home and cook, I'm gonna spin out, and I don't want to spin out, so I do that.
Right, but there are places you can go that you can. I can't think
But
of one
it's
thing
kind
that
of
drives for that.
expensive to eat
Fresh
right.
Fit meals?
And it takes a long time to read the damn labels. I'm lazy.
Well, I tell you what. Once you read,
I don't think it's lazy. I think it's
It
You've got to
overwhelmed.
learn.
It's
yeah.
overwhelmed.
Because I'm the same way. You've got to pick what you want to learn about, because if you don't, you can read all day long, but if you don't know what the label means, that's when it gets convoluted. So
Right.
Well, and then on labels, there's about 10 names for everything that could possibly be bad.
Right.
Because
Like
once-
MSG is monosodium glutamate, or autolyzed yeast, or
Right.
It can
autolyzed
be-
soy protein, or all of those
And
are
that's a
things
dead
that
giveaway that it's
have.
wrong. It's bad for you because they changed the name so you don't know what it is.
Right. It's about 20 different ways it's listed.
Yeah, that gets overwhelming. I agree.
This
It is
is not.
overwhelming.
You wouldn't do this in a week.
No, I started with
you
the
know-
meat. I started with the meat just in the last 3 weeks.
Right.
I went from, I don't even eat meat anymore. I do ground chicken. I like it. But
Right.
I do put it in a tortilla with a pound of cheese.
But
Yeah,
it's a
Baby
small
You just
steps.
have to look
Baby
at that,
steps.
Right.
It's a small
Baby
I
size.
steps.
like it, and I feel better. I don't feel as heavy as when I eat the meat.
The red meat.
But just one thing at a time. I can't do this.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the-
here's a little commercial break.
But I doctor
Something that the FDA allows is when if it's a single raw ingredient, like meat or watermelon in the cup that's already cut up in the handy, you don't have to cut it up. They are allowed to put a chemical preservative on it and not list it on the label.
Wow.
So it looks.
So that
And
might
I
be-
read that from the FDA website.
I'm gonna have to tell
I
my
will
husband
swallow
that.
my tongue.
That
My
makes
husband
sense.
does better with watermelon he cuts, but as soon as he eats a prepackaged, then his allergies and it intestinally
Wow.
it causes problems.
Who would have known?
So stay away from the pre-cut. Cut it yourself.
Cut it yourself. Yep.
Darn.
And so when we buy meat, we buy organic because.
Yeah,
I mean,
I did the organic ground chicken. And
exactly.
Turkey
It just-
bacon. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
it's cheaper.
Right.
Candy.
Here's the other thing about cost. A lot of people tell us, well, I can't eat better because it costs. Well, if you look at what you spend eating out,
Yeah.
and then you add that to your grocery bill, and you say, okay, I'm not going to eat out as much, it's actually cheaper.
Yeah.
We added it up for,
Well,
we've added it up for several families, and it's cheaper.
The
But-
the big thing in that is just planning ahead,
It,
so
yeah.
that you don't get
Yeah.
into the situation where I need a quick fix and I'm just gonna. It's planning ahead. I've noticed that because if I plan my meals from Sunday, which
Right.
is hard,
Yeah.
but then I shop for that,
Right.
it's so cheap the whole week because I'm not. I
You're not
planned
impulse
everything
buying.
else. Yeah, I'm not having to run back to the store to get ingredients
Yeah,
to make up a meal.
that's true.
Or I'm not saying I ran out of time today and I'm getting something quick. So we plan ahead on Sunday and it's saved us at least $300 a month.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's been
I do
huge.
2 weeks at a time, and I write that everybody gets input if they want it, and that if you don't choose to have input, zip it. You had to change. But I write all the things that everyone says on a little sticky note, and I keep it in the pantry. So I don't know which day we're going to have tacos. I just know sometime this week. So we do that, and then from there I plan my grocery list, and then, you know.
Yeah.
So,
But when you run out and he's about to eat the cabinet door off, he's a hoarder. He hoards food in his room. He eats. Yeah, he'll eat.
There's some, I can give you some ideas if you
Big
want
around,
them.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
I know.
they are always, because they're, yeah. Some ideas for snacks and things like that. I mean, we buy some packaged foods. We buy some things. We just only buy certain things. And the reading of the label, you know, once you do that for a little bit, you turn it over, and I start at the bottom. I don't start at the top. I start at the bottom because that's where they put all the nasty. And I just start at the bottom, and then I go, no. But if I look at it and it's got this many ingredients, I don't even need to read it, because there is no reason for you to put this much stuff in some chicken nuggets. It's just thumbs up.
What didn't they teach us to go by the first ingredient? That's what's
Mostly
but it's
in there.
not. Oh, mostly.
That's what's mostly in there. That's your majority, and then it goes in order there. But, you know, you don't need a lot of poison to kill someone. It can be at the end, and it's still not good, you know?
So-
This is, whoa,
I'm
yes.
sorry. I have a doctor friend, and it's a whole other subject, and that's not where I'm going, but she does the food is medicine, all that
Yes.
stuff. Well,
Yes.
she has one of those little pots, and she tells me she can go from frozen to all the way cooked really fast.
I have a friend that that is a doctor, and they have one of the, and I can't remember, Julie.
Oh,
it
the
might
heart
be called
surgeon's
that.
wife? Or
But
Instapot?
Yeah, it's kind of like a
Pressure cooker?
yeah,
Like an
it's
electric
sort of
pressure
like that,
cooker?
right?
kind of like
And
a crock pot and a
she's-
pressure cooker all in.
And she bought some, I guess, some extra pieces where she can put like the chicken in
Oh,
here and the
cool.
potatoes in here
Oh, wow,
and cook like,
vegetables, wow.
you know, cook it all together. And she just hits a button, it cooks and it goes off.
To make your fast food and then put it in a little bag.
Right.
Yeah.
That's something I
Okay,
do.
cool.
If I make my chicken strips, I'm not gonna make like 12. I'm gonna make like 40.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they're in the fridge, and when their kids are like, I'm hungry. Well,
There you
there's some
are.
of that
Well,
there.
you know what we've done
There's some
too?
fruit.
So
There's
you
some-
do chicken nuggets?
Yeah, I have a brand that I buy that's already made, but I also make.
And what is that?
Like, I like the Ian's. That's the best. Ian's, IANS, and they're like kind of in the frozen section. With now, Applegate Farms is okay, but I'm a little suspect now because they've just been bought by Hormel, and I don't know that I'm a little worried about that. But they haven't changed anything on their label, and my kid hasn't flipped out eating them. So there's my
Wow.
that's my
Yeah.
thermometer.
And you
Wow.
shop at H-E-B or you go to the
Where do you
natural
shop
health
at?
food?
I shop mostly at H-E-B.
Yeah.
Sometimes we go to Market Street. There are certain things we use that I can only get at Market Street, and then we go to the health food stores. So it depends what it is. you
And
know.
sometimes at HEB, I'm suspect of organics. You know, how do we know they're not combining? But at HEB, sometimes the organics will even be less expensive. You've
what
got
I
to,
ran
you've
into.
got
their
to
own
watch.
brand.
Wow.
I was impressed.
No,
that
like
too.
national brands because I
Oh.
guess they've got so many organics that's not
Oh,
selling.
right.
Wow.
They have their own brand, and I trust them. Well, first of all, because the thermometer hasn't gone off on that, but they're family owned.
Who is?
And HEB,
Oh, yeah.
they're family owned, and they have gotten this label and moving in the direction of people being healthier. So their motivation looks right.
Right.
If you read anything about their family, so that's a label I trust. But I make chicken strips from scratch, but the chicken nuggets are pretty good. And my kids will eat them for breakfast too.
Yeah.
So that's a cool thing.
Yeah.
So you do
We do
cereal
the
for
same-
dinner, we do chicken nuggets
for breakfast.
And what kind of things do you get at the health food store?
you know, if they have like their, because we do the gluten-free bread, and I've tried 1,000 times to bake my own, and I
You just can't do it.
Well, if you can, I'm not going to try.
I can't. I mean, there are people that do it, but it's not
You
me.
can't, no one can.
And I used to make our tortillas from scratch, but now I can actually find some that don't have junk in them that are
Okay.
gluten-free.
Okay, and where do you get
and we
those?
can use
Because
those.
I'm Mexican and I love my tortillas.
Yeah.
You can't,
Now
we
these
can't
they're
live
expensive,
without
I'm not gonna lie.
tortillas.
But we like the ones that are made from almond flour, and it's called siete, and they're frozen, and they are, I don't know if they have them anywhere else, but I know they have them at Market Street. They have that over by the pharmacy. There's that big section of gluten-free stuff.
So that's
Just a recommendation
Uh-huh.
for you. Like what I've noticed with my kids, especially that I've had them home during the summer, is it's not so much about them wanting to snack, it's them wanting something quick and easy. So what I've learned is to pre-package like little like almonds or pre-package something healthy and put it right where they open the pantry and they could see.
Right.
And the cookies and all the treats, they're way up and they have to work for them. And they'll grab what's quick. Or in the fridge, I cut up vegetables and I put them in little snack bags and I put it right where they open the fridge. And that's really helped because I told Junior, they eat us out during the summer. Like I can't keep up. I can't have snacks. They're always wanting to constantly snack and eat. And this was the easiest way for me.
sometimes I think I'm not gonna say get it from boredom, but
But
They
it
probably
is.
do
It
too.
is.
but I had
It is.
5.
Yeah, they're hungry and they want something quick and easy and fast. And they're gonna grab the most unhealthy thing because that's what's quick, easy, and fast. It's a
Yeah,
box
that's what
of
they
fruit
see.
snacks,
Yeah.
or so if you prepackage it yourself and you put it right where it's convenient for them, they'll eat it and they don't even miss that I'm not buying the Rice
You ever
Krispies
think it
treats.
becomes a game though? Because it's almost like I put it on the very, very top, as high as the ceiling, and in a roaster, they're gone.
They find it.
It's like a game.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
It's not even
Sure
about
it
the
is.
Yeah.
snacks.
Did y'all
Yeah.
want to go ahead and break for lunch while it's warm? Are we at a good spot?
Me too.
No,
I
you can
finish
finish.
this-
You can finish.
This page.
got some
So we
doctors.
started taking the food dyes out and the preservatives. We don't use refined sugar, bleached sugar. We use organic evaporated cane sugar because then the white sugar, they've bleached it. So you got some chlorine in there, which is not really not
So
good.
evap organic
Uh-huh. And it's
cane
not,
sugar.
and we don't use a lot of sugar, but I don't think it's much more expensive. It might be, I really don't know, but we don't use enough of it for it to affect our bottom line at all. We also had to get rid of wheat and dairy because I've told you about that. A big thing if you can do dairy is to do less of it and steer towards organic because they put the HCG hormone in there to make the cows produce more milk. And they started that when our oldest son was a baby, so that was 27 years ago because I remember when it was voted in because I kind of flipped out. So it was kind of a hippie. Well, I still am, but anyway, I was really angry about it. And my thought was, if you're giving the cows a hormone to make more milk, what is this going to do to our kids' endocrine systems?
Yeah.
So now we have these females that are
Overdeveloped.
developing very quickly and then having some problems. I'm not saying that's where it came from, but I've watched over the last
They've
30
lost
years
them,
yeah.
the change, right?
Yeah.
My granddaughter's 12, nothing, and all of her
Good.
friends, and she's going.
Wow.
She's jealous, and I'm going.
No.
That's natural.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
she's more. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Even when I think I'm not doing something right, I've done something right, even with one.
Aww.
Yeah,
Done
but
lots of
I
things
think
right.
that's interesting because she looks around and it's like.
Yeah, it's.
Cause she does.
And I taught junior high, and it is scary up in there.
Well, yeah, when I was that age, I look at girls now and I'm like, gosh, they they look in their early 20s and you're like 12?
Third and fourth grade
Right.
that are.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Developing, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
See, and my thing is, they must have held her back.
My daughter's 13 and she's like 5'7".
That's Mariah.
She's
Mariah's 11.
she's
and
taller
5'6".
than I am,
Yeah.
and she's only 13.
Yeah, and she's developing, and I'm thinking, God, when I was your age, I had my hair in a sideways ponytail with
Yeah.
scrunchy
Playing
shocks,
with-
and I was flat as a board, and
Right.
I was a kid.
It
Yeah.
scares me. GMO foods, the genetically modified stuff, the only reason to make genetically modified foods is so that they can go through the fields and spray Roundup, weed killer, Monsanto. Chemically, it's glyphosate. So in case you throw that out there, that's what, it's the same thing. They go through the field, they can spray the whole crop instead of having to pay labor to spot spray. They spray the whole thing. They did a study where they tested people aged from little children up to elderly. 100% of them had glyphosate in their blood, 100%.
Wow.
So if you see GMO, that's what that means.
And that'll be right on the label.
Well, what you need to look for is non-GMO.
Okay.
Non-GMO. And you can, and I didn't include a list, I should have, but of things that are genetically modified, corn, wheat, soy are huge. There's some other things, but those are big ones. And so they're going to have that in there.
To talk a little bit about glyphosate real quick, what it is a enzyme.
There's a huge lawsuit right now too, by the way.
For what? Toward
On Monsanto
Okay.
for the glyphosate,
Yeah.
huge lawsuit.
All it does is stop enzymes from working in the plant, which enzymes also relate to these neurotransmitters,
Right.
methylation process, all that. So all they're doing is turning off a piece of the genetics of the plant, like spraying this junk on it. Now we're eating that.
It's
And
specifically
what is that
linked
turning off in
to
us?
all of this rare, aggressive breast cancer, the testicular cancer that you're seeing now. It's directly related to all of that.
Wow.
So that's why the lawsuit. There are lots of countries that do not allow GMO. They do not allow Monsanto in. So Europe, they've gotten wise in a lot of
Food
places.
guys,
We just don't because
Because
you
we're
know, he
about
who dies
money.
with the most money wins,
Yeah.
right? For Anthony, anything that has synthetic B vitamins is huge. So when it says on the label that it's got B6, B12, or it'll have the chemical name, it's not from the food, it's chemically made, and they look at it and they go, oh, well, this molecule looks pretty close to this. Well, your body knows the difference, because Jesus said. And I'm telling you, if it's in your grains, your cereals, your breads, your milk substitutes, so that's a huge thing. And we even bought some gluten-free bread, and it was the fluffy, lightest. Oh, it's so lovely.
Pretty much anything that says enriched. You hear the word
enriched
a
or
lot?
fortified.
Fortified.
If it says that.
And cotton, did you know how much bread, the cheap bread,
Mm-hmm.
is full of cotton?
Mm-hmm.
What?
What is that?
I don't know that
Our cottonseed, it's like, it's more,
cottonseed,
Um,
ground cottonseed, or cottonseed oil,
okay.
or
yeah,
whatever.
it's nasty. When you think you're eating a bowl of cotton out here in the field, that helped me. But you know, it isn't more expensive if I have to eat that way and my grandson has to eat that way and my granddaughter wants to eat that way. So really, if you're cooking just for one instead of separate diets, it's really probably not any more expensive.
Well, that's a good point. Because you're not.
Yeah,
You're just buying this instead of all of this.
yeah.
But the B vitamins, if he gets that has to do with the MTHFR specifically. If he gets those, it throws that cycle off, because part of that cycle uses amino acids and it pulls in certain B vitamins. Well, I told you this side's broken and this side's broken. So it stops the methylation process, which means he's not going to have enough of certain neurotransmitters, but he's going to have too much of some other ones because he can't clear them out. So you get, for 3 days, a really angry, aggressive child that has a lot of sensory issues. Noises start bothering him. Lights are too bright. He doesn't want to wear his socks or shoes. All that stuff.
How old is he?
11.
11.
So we've been doing the gluten-free, dairy-free, researching all this diet stuff for 7.5 years now.
Do you all do
Specifically for.
No.
Do you what?
Mm-mm.
transdermals?
So
part of the,
specifically for that kid, is that what started it all? That particular kid, or
Yes. Well,
But
we
you
have
do
an
it for all
older
of
son
them?
that had some medical issues too. We've always kind of been like looking up, wanting to eat healthier. But I'm going to tell you what, we thought we were doing well until we started researching. We're like, oh my goodness. So we had a little bit of background knowledge in it, but that's what's.
so? How
Anthony's
old
what
are all of
started
them?
it. Well, our oldest son passed, and he would have been 27 this year, and so he was 19. So I say 19. The next one's 15. Anthony's 11, and the twins are 8.
So sorry.
He's good.
I know.
So 15,
I'm not so
11,
much, but he's good.
Yeah.
15, 11, and then the twins are 8.
Yeah. So, artificial sweeteners. Our guy they actually make him have some psychotic tendencies. Make him suicidal if he gets enough of it. He actually tried to ride his bicycle in front of a truck because he said he wanted
You're
to
11-year-old?
He was 8.
And from the artificial
That's
sweeteners,
nice.
do you know like why? Like you were saying, like caffeine turns out blocks the ability to calm down. Is that like kind of the same reaction with the artificial sweeteners?
It's a neurotoxin. They're
Oh,
neurotoxins.
so it just fires
it's
so
like
much.
plugging your electrical system into the wall, your brain, and it just
Oh.
fries it.
Okay, well,
Our
that's so mean.
specialist in Dallas said he
Right.
cannot have this, not one molecule, not even by accident. But we
And that was
knew
after
every
we-
time we
that's
ended
after
up
we
in the
quit doing
ER,
it, we went to the
going
doctor.
heading to the psych hospital, it was after he'd had aspartame.
He drank a bottle of Diet
Every single
Fanta.
time. Yep.
We ended up at the psych hospital in
Wow.
Amarillo.
Yep.
Yeah, it was.
One of his friends snuck it to him. Because we go tell people,
Yeah.
this is our kid, he can have water. Don't let him
Yeah.
have anything but water.
Right.
Hi, we're the Parsleys. It's so nice to meet you. Don't give him any food.
I tell him,
That's-
remember the show
we're those-
Gremlins? Back in the
Oh.
80s? He's the gremlin.
Yeah.
Do not feed him.
Yeah.
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 But
Yeah.
that's
There's a
that one
bunch
is
of kids out of Bynum that have big
really-
time specialized diets.
right.
Mm.
And they've figured this out. Anyway, so you add in whole, minimally processed foods. So just think about it from the time it came off the plant or the animal. What did they do to it to get it to me, my plate right now?
Mhm.
The less, the better.
So
The
almost
less-
a kosher diet. I mean,
Even more, because
More than
kosher allows
kosher.
sulfites and nitrates and
Okay.
stuff. They just focus on certain things, but like they only eat the front half of the cow, but that or the pig or whatever it is.
right,
But it doesn't mean they didn't put a bunch of chemicals on it then
Oh,
after they
okay.
slaughtered. So
Okay.
yeah. And then the reading of the labels, and then we can stop if you want.
So do y'all don't do any dairy at all? Y'all don't drink milk?
Now, not to say he doesn't
Oh
go
yeah.
get some somewhere.
Now, remind me how old he is again?
11.
You know what? Cameron just turned 13. And all of a sudden, here lately, he's starting to not eat and drink or want the things that he knows cause big problems.
Right.
They will.
Such a relief.
They will.
Right.
Well, looking back on this, that's what we were talking about this the other day. There's certain things that he won't eat, and we think you got to eat whatever. Well,
we
looking
used
back
to.
on it, the things that he's not eating are stuff he really shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knows
And
it.
it
His body
messes up
knows
his
it.
system. So your
Yeah.
brain knows. Like when I was a kid, I didn't like salt.
Wow.
Well,
Wow.
then I started eating salt, and all of a sudden I've got all these problems with hypertension and all that. Well, I shouldn't have been eating salt in the first place.
I
My
can eat
body
some
knew
salt
that.
though. Doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Mine was red meat. Red meat was a problem, and come to find out,
Uric acid.
I have a problem with red meat. Big
Well, I
time.
remember being a kid and everybody going, "You don't eat salt?" You know, everybody's putting on lemons, and I'm like, "I don't like salt." You don't like salt? I eat it. Blah blah blah. And then as I get older, I find out I shouldn't eat salt. Well, that was my body that already knew
Yeah.
I didn't eat salt.
I've always wondered that because my dad is a saltaholic. He gets a Lay's potato chip bag and pours
He
salt in it.
probably needs it for
And,
whatever reason.
and I'm like, oh my God, like that's not healthy, Dad. Like salt on his pizza. And
But-
I'm like, oh.
but for
like,
him, it probably
But
is.
I've always thought that like maybe his body is craving something that he's trying to,
right.
trying to,
Because you got to
yeah,
have your
self-medicate.
salt. You got to have sodium, potassium, magnesium and calcium should be
Yeah,
balanced.
trace minerals.
If any one of those are messed up, the other one will pull the other one into balance. So maybe by eating a lot of salt, he's pulling his potassium back into balance.
So where do y'all get y'all's calcium from if you don't get it from milk?
We use the unenriched original Rice Dream rice milk.
So you do drink milk. It's
And
just
it's,
not.
oh yeah,
yeah.
it's just not dairy.
Yeah, no
Okay.
dairy.
Yeah.
Ooh, rice milk.
Okay.
That's like we're talking, but
And
no
it's,
sugar.
and there's a vanilla one.
Well, you can
Vanilla
use
one,
the
there's
cane
like-
organic.
dairy.
Yes.
The
Okay,
organic
well that's
cane
what I was
sugar.
like. How do you live then? Because I have 5 kids, okay?
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
Well, we cook
We have to
it.
get the original one because the enriched one obviously is enriched and we can't do that. But
If we're cooking, we'll substitute coconut.
we can use coconut milk. Oh, the coconut milk in the can.
cans, we use
Not the
that.
light one, the one with all the fat on top. That's a good one. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Man, what did I make with that? I made enchilada sauce with it the other day. I roasted the tomatillos and the garlic and the peppers and the onions, and then put it with the coconut milk and the chicken
so
broth
do you do
in the-
convenience, or do you just spend a lot of
not
time
a lot,
in the
but I
kitchen?
love a crock pot.
We
Okay.
need some crop.
Because the convenience.
He loves it too.
I have 5 kids that are going every which direction.
Yeah.
I
I mean, there's gonna
sometimes
there's
I feel like
days
I
when
live in
we're
my
having-
car.
Right. There's days when we're having sandwiches in the car, and I'm gonna cook with the crock pot.
Now, and I have
Couple
done.
times a
Of
week,
course, I
I'm
haven't
just
been very
saying.
good at it lately, but there have been times where I go to the store and I'm going to plan for the whole week, which it does work out a lot better. I just it's,
Hard
it has-
to get in the habit of it.
It has been a rough summer for us, so that has not been in the thing, you know.
Right.
But because I not only take care of my 5 but aging parents that I take care of too.
Right.
So that's 9
Right.
that I'm
And
taking
it's-
care of.
Plays havoc on your health.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like,
Right.
I don't plan 7 meals on Sunday. I plan 4.
Right.
And
leftovers.
I have leftovers. So
Right.
I make
we do good
for
at
an
leftovers.
army,
Well, okay.
and then we've got
Okay.
leftovers. So I'm only really
Right.
Cooking
we do
4
the
times a
same
week.
thing, and so we know that we're going to have sandwiches one day. There's going to be leftovers one day. There's going to be 2 meals in the crock pot. And I'm talking big crock pot.
I do that
That
too.
goes in because we pack all our lunches and stuff. That goes in the lunch the next day. Whatever I make for dinner, it's going in their lunches the next day.
So your kids, that you send their lunches.
Yep.
No matter, and then you feed them breakfast. So what do they kinds of things do they eat for breakfast? Because trying to get
chicken
5,
nuggets.
trying to get 5 kids
Chicken
out the
nuggets.
door, and
Right.
first thing in the morning, you know.
This now, and my kids know how to cook. Like the 15-year-old, he can get up and scramble some eggs now.
Well,
So
some of mine I trust to with fire, but some of them I do not.
we do. I make scrambled eggs, or what do they eat? We do
on
the
weekends, we
gluten-free
make
frozen
pancakes
waffles.
and
There's a brand of those, Nature's Path or Nature's something.
Nature's way.
Nature's, I don't know, something. We can eat those.
We make pancakes.
We do
on the
every
weekend,
Sunday. We make
gluten-free pancakes.
gigantic thing of pancakes.
Keep them in the fridge.
And those
And
are
then we
good.
have
We'll
that.
do those in the freezer.
The pancakes.
Yeah.
I have the pancakes, and then you pop them in the microwave for like 10,
Oh,
10
okay.
15
Ours won't make
seconds.
it to the freezer, but
Well, and every now and then
They
Cole
eat 'em
will
all.
get creative and want to do waffles, and waffles freeze really
Oh.
well.
We do that.
And
Okay.
then,
So
Yeah.
what do you use for syrup?
Maple.
100% organic maple syrup.
Yeah.
That pancake stuff, I don't know what that is.
Well, and
but
even
it
the
is
maple-
not syrup.
The maple syrup tastes so much better.
Oh,
Or you
It
could.
is expensive,
night
but
and
you know,
day.
we don't
It
put a
is.
lot.
you don't
Oh,
use
yeah.
a lot of
You
it.
know where you can find it that I found it is that like at TJ Maxx or Ross.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes they have it
cool.
there.
Oh.
They even have like
Yeah.
organic laundry soap that's
And
a
it's
lot cheaper.
and it's easy enough to make your own. You get with your natural sugar, you get your berries, and you can just put them on the stove for about 5-10 minutes, and you make your natural.
Right.
Whether it's raspberry, blueberry,
And we've done
Strawberry.
And that's what-
just
that's what
organic
we-
jam.
That's
You
where
put
we
it on the
started.
pancake or whatever.
What else do we
That's
do
a
for
good idea,
breakfast?
too.
We do. You know what I found? If you buy the cold cereal, well, and oatmeal. They love oatmeal, my people.
Oh yeah, mine too.
The dried cereal, we can do corn flakes or frosted flakes. but I usually buy a box of each, and then if you put them in the big thing and you mix them together,
Then they
shake
don't-
it up,
okay, yeah,
then it cuts
okay.
the sugar in. But
See,
they
that's-
don't know.
yeah,
They don't know.
I do that
Don't let
too.
them see you.
Yeah.
You go in your bedroom.
It's a
lock
good
the door.
idea.
But if you buy the organic cornflakes, all that's in it is non-GMO corn, salt, and sugar.
Wow.
And there's no added B vitamins or tocopherol. Tocopherols is your synthetic vitamin E.
If you can't say it or
Jackson.
spell it, you don't need it, right?
Kind of. I mean, that's, you know.
If you like it, in my case,
You can't taste it, or I
if
mean, you
your
can't
grandma
say
would-
it or spell it.
If
you
your
can't-
grandma wouldn't have put it in her food, don't eat it. Okay.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm
That's-
sorry, I got a whole other
and I don't
conversation
think
over.
it's the coffee.
You're good.
It's all the stuff you put in the coffee that I've missed.
Okay. Now,
And see, that's it.
That
I was
stuff's
almost
not
going to
good
go
either.
into this a
I
while
know.
ago.
I don't really think it's the
Starbucks.
coffee. I missed.
Think of Starbucks, and people line up around the block to pay $6 a piece. They're
And
not-
we'll be late to work
They are not
and
paying
mad
for
if
the
they can't
coffee.
get
They're
one.
paying
There's
for
something
the
wrong
syrup.
there.
The
Yeah.
syrup.
Nobody lines
Yep.
up to pay $8 for coffee and then gets
The-
mad and honks at people in line while they wait. Something's wrong.
No,
Yeah.
it's a proven.
I read you
The
all.
syrup they put in
It's-
it is a
And
neurotoxin.
Chick-fil-A's
And a
opening up on the
neurotoxin,
loop
And
on
our-
191, and I don't have to worry about going there anymore. I'm not getting there.
and
I'm not going there.
a neurotoxin, that all that
Rach,
syrup they pour in those coffees, it's known a
I'm
neurotoxin
gonna wash it.
will make you crave more of it.
Yes.
That's why they put it
Oh,
in.
it's
there.
addictive.
You get
It's
addicted.
addictive.
Try to quit drinking Starbucks and see. It took me a long time.
Yeah.
I went for
He
days.
would sneak from work. Yes,
I would
we're
sit
on
in
a
my
big
office
fancy
and go,
special
"I'm not
diet,"
going
and
to
he's
drinking
like,
Starbucks today," and all through the day, I'm like, "Okay."
Then you
That's all
you can
persevere.
think about.
Then you persevere.
And I would get up
It's
and go
addiction.
and get one.
I wake
And I'm
up
like, this
thinking,
is sick. Why
Yeah.
am I
Yeah.
wanting a coffee that bad?
It's,
Well,
it's
it's the chemicals they're
Right.
putting in.
But you
Yeah.
don't sit there all day tapping your foot thinking,
And
I
that's
have
what
got to
makes
get
you-
an apple.
What's a
Where I'm gonna
physical
get an apple, I
thing
gotta
with
get an
my
apple,
grandson?
you know?
He tried riding the bike. I took the training wheels off. He threw a fit and he won't get on the bike to save your life. He won't try to
You
catch
know
me.
what? Our little one,
Mhm.
he went to church camp this summer. My husband was able to go, and so for the first time, Cameron was able to go. They were doing mountain bikes there, and he watched them. Came home, and within like a month, he was over at a friend's house, and he learned how to ride a bike.
I know.
Once he was
But it's when
13.
it's his idea. isn't
Yeah.
it?
So you have one of those
Oh,
if daddy
yeah.
don't
I think
go,
that's
they don't
what
go.
it
If
is.
mommy don't
Yeah.
go,
Oh,
they
no,
don't.
because
I have those
leave
too.
that alone.
Yeah,
If I
because
can't go,
we
that's
did the
There's things
resident